hope to see for like this next generation of Black leaders?
Hmm. I think that again, this next generation of Black leaders, and not to give my age away, but technology is changing so fast, and the next waves and the next generations of Black leaders have a, a lot more opportunities, and they're getting it a lot more quickly than we did when I was coming through. But I think kind of in line with that unique strength thing that we were talking about, I think that it's highly critical for our younger Black leaders and these next generation of Black leaders to continue to be vulnerable and actually be more vulnerable than we are, because we're in an age now where you can kind of get it on your own. You can go out there. You got Gen AI, you've got social media, you got all these things, and you can kind of make yourself.
Yep.
But when people make themselves or they believe they made themselves, I'm like, number one, you're still doing it on the backs of a lot of people that came before you. So don't forget that. The other thing is, but if you feel like you made yourself and then you want to guard what you feel like you've made, you stop being vulnerable, and which means you stop growing others. And there's no point in being a leader if you can't make others better, if you can't grow others, if nobody's following you. So you can be a person, you can be an individual, but I would remove if you can't be vulnerable and you can't be at a place where you can actually make somebody better, I don't really call you a leader anyway. I don't care what title you work in. I don't care, where you find yourself in what position you're in your place of work. If you're not making anybody better, you are not a leader to me. And so I would say, stay vulnerable, get vulnerable if you're not vulnerable, because there are, and again, not to dismiss the fact that there are some people that you're going to run across. There are some groups that are going to mean no good. It's like,
Mm.
but you gotta stay vulnerable because number one, everybody's not out to get you, and you gotta stay open to feedback. I talk about that first pivotal moment for me was really about getting feedback. And another mentor of mine, different mentor, when it came to feedback, a lot of times we like, but I still struggle with this. People give you feedback. Yeah, I'm like, that ain't totally true. Like that's not the whole story. And you want to resist the feedback, but uh, like I said, a lot of stuff that I learned early in my 20s is coming full circle for me now, and I'm rehearing it in a different light. But another mentor, who's gone on as well, he said, Alex, he said, you got to learn how to eat the fish and spit out the bones. And I was like, hmm. And he said, anytime somebody puts something in front of you, he said, think about it as a fish. It's got bones and it's got meat. He said, there's substance there that is actually can nourish you. He said, but there are also bones that can choke you up. And so his point was, you gotta learn how to separate, get what you need from that feedback, if it's the case, that word, that message, that feedback, get what can nourish you, get what you need to get, but don't get choked up on stuff that ain't for you. And I was like, and I've carried that, like I said, for the last, shoot, 25, 30 years. I'm like, see, I'm not, now I'm dating myself, but, I'm like, that's been a point where I've actually, I chew on it all the time. I'm like, listen to what they're saying. You may not agree with everything, but find what you need to get from it. And some of it is going to be corrective, some of it's going to be
Mhm.
admonishment, and maybe you need to work on something. But you can't get choked up on stuff. If it's not you, don't eat it. Don't try to swallow them fish bones. They'll get stuck in your throat, and then you'll be trying to drink vinegar to soften them up.